Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There's a delay between your mouth moving and the noise coming out of it.
Yeah, that sounds like stock standard video.
Okay, hold on. Let's see if we can fix that. Okay. So should we give it a minute?
Yeah, sure.
How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. In the middle of moving house at the moment.
Oh, where are you moving? Just keep in mind that this is live and on Facebook.
True.
And we'll stay there forever.
Still in the same area, but like 10 minutes.
You're moving like into a brothel and you don't want to say it in public or something.
Well, if I was doing that, I'd say it in public so I could get some business.
Promotion. You're right. You're a practical person. And are you? Oh, so is that a box you're packing over there?
Yes. So there's boxes and things already sorted up.
Okay. And how much longer do you have?
To move.
Yeah.
Thursday's the last day. So tomorrow, Thursday, the trucks are moving things, and then that's it. All done.
Okay. How's that for an instruction?
Good instruction.
Isn't it cool how it's yellow, which is our colors?
I thought you deliberately set that up.
I didn't, unless somebody did it for me before I went on and I didn't know, but I didn't actually realize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I didn't know. Well, and obviously the only thing we can really talk about is what did you think of my interview?
I liked it. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a very insightful guy, and I think you did well, like allowing him to explore whatever he was talking about. Because I think that's the whole point of an interview is you let people almost ramble, so that they get their thoughts out, and you kind of pick up on little threads where they get excited, and so you ask questions about those threads in order to get that conversation going.
Yeah, so, and we're going to release the next one probably tomorrow. And I was just listening to sections of it because I needed to just put some commentary in, and I realized like there were sections where I just kind of talked over him a little bit. Especially because we weren't live anymore, and because of the delay, it's like, I tried to remove the awkwardness by not stopping every time. It's like, oh no, you go, oh no, you go, and so I just kind of talked, but then I could hear this time, now that I listened back, that he was trying to start, and I kept talking.
Yeah.
So
you definitely have to be good with silence as an interviewer, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of the things I was actually aware of because I've been kind of not studying purposefully, but studying a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I've been looking at this, and that was one of the things that I came across a lot. It was in a lot of interview advice was like, allow the silence, like leave room for the silence. Because obviously there's, well, not obviously, but what I discovered was that there's an inclination to fill the time because you don't want it to be awkward.
Yeah.
So just like socially, like if you're with a friend, you just either ramble or you get awkward because you're not okay with silence. And so I try to leave those gaps. Definitely with Fernando, I thought I did well. But in the next interview, I thought I could have probably done better. But I think I was sensitive to that lag. And I felt like if he couldn't hear me, so I just start again and start saying something. So, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good feedback. I'm getting a lot of interesting feedback on what everybody thought about this guy.
Is that positive?
Yeah. Look, I think I'm impressed with how he handled it. He's done it before, obviously. Not in English, in Spanish. And hold on. Tell me something. Can you hear me better like this, or can you hear me better like this?
It sounds the same.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you now.
You can't hear me?
No, now it's gone like
At all?
soft on the phone. The previous one was better.
Okay. How's that?
Yeah, much better. It's much clearer.
Okay, lovely. All right, well, we should get started, don't you think?
Let's do it.
Should we wait for Grant or Bill or Laura or Kirsten or Yeva to ask a question? How's that?
No, you can start. They can ask as they go along. Or you can ask questions.
Otherwise, I'll ask a question. Well, maybe we just while we wait for these people to type in a question, and it is the AskNat special edition. How did you? I'm curious because I feel like you're good at this, and I feel like when you answered it again
at answering questions.
I don't know. I feel like you wanted to answer those questions. You know, my question of the day. I can't remember which one it was, but I felt like you wanted to answer it, and I was just wanted to ask you what it feels like you have an opinion on things, which is great, and you feel like you're happy to express it, which is great. But it feels like you can also kind of articulate it, and so where does that come from?
I don't know where that comes from. Maybe because I'm very quiet. I'm a generally quiet, shy person, so I listen a lot. And then I read a lot. So I read how different people articulate different things and, the way they speak. And I love watching TED Talks. That's the other thing, that people are very good at articulating the way their thoughts come across. And then I think it's just because I work in marketing. So marketing is all about being able to get your story across in a language that people can understand. So you need to speak in the language of your target market in order to get them to engage with you, to understand with you. So maybe that's why.
Maybe, but it's cool. It's nice.
Deeply.
Again?
I've never thought about it that deeply.
No, I just think it's cool that you are able to, engage with everybody. Oh, and I remember the question now. It was the what do girls think question.
Oh, what?
What do girls think about while they're social dancing?
Yeah.
No, wait, was it that? Was it
the minds of the girls? What would you ask them, or what would you want to know?
Yeah, and can I tell you? So at first, I was going to stop you from answering because it took my question to a whole different purpose. So I think maybe I didn't word it clearly because I think the point of my question was for the girls to learn something, the girls to see these are the things that guys are wondering, and then during your dance or during your experience, you should realize that, and you can kind of try and address it. Like if he's constantly worried about are you happy, then maybe you can focus on showing that you're happy, right?
Yeah.
And then it turned into the other way, which is you telling the guys what to do.
Well,
about the girl's perspective, which is fine.
I don't think I told them what to do. I just think if you generally don't ask a question that you don't want an answer to, right? So if you're asking these questions, it means you're thinking about it and you're thinking about it quite a lot. So the fact that you physically typed it down and said, yeah, this is something I actually want to know. So I just figured I may as well have an answer.
There's no doubt that the guys wanted answers. I don't doubt that. Yeah, for sure. I'm just keeping the screen rolling so I can see the questions. Okay, so we have one question from Kirsten, and it's to you, AskNat. What is your favorite pastime when you aren't dancing?
My favorite pastime when I'm not dancing? Probably reading. I read a lot. So, yeah, I read all sorts of different books, fictions.
What are you reading at the moment?
At the moment, I'm reading, what's it called? Gutsy Women or something. So we had International Women's Day right before lockdown happened. Yeah. And my company gave all the women like a book that they could read. And so the one that I got was called Gutsy Women. And it's stories about all of these different women throughout history and the way that they persevered and, you know, went against the status quo and all that sort of stuff.
No, I think I know the one. I've seen it somewhere in a bookshop when I used to go to bookshops.
It's from Hillary and Chelsea Clinton. So they compiled it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was Hillary, who was your favorite story in there?
I don't know. I think they're all pretty good. So I like how, regardless of what was happening in their lives, they somehow managed to make stuff happen. So even women in the 1800s where, you know, they weren't allowed to go to university because that was not a lady thing. They weren't allowed to vote. They weren't allowed to own property. Yet they still somehow managed to do it. They just kept persevering, and they would find someone to teach them, or they would just teach themselves, and then go on to do stuff. Like Florence Nightingale was one of the women in the book. And, you know, she studied in a time where you weren't allowed to go to university and study medicine if you're a woman. But she did it anyway. And then she basically founded modern nursing. So all of the stuff that we do today, she was the one that brought it in. She was the one that did everything. So that was definitely an interesting story. And you just look at all the different setbacks that she had and all the people telling her, oh, your theories are not true. And the only reason they gave it was, oh, because you're a woman and women can't know those sorts of things. So what do you know, kind of thing. But she persevered and she got through it. So
what do you think the lesson is for young women from that?
Don't take no for an answer. Just keep persevering, keep going. And that's not just for young women, that's for everyone.
I think, definitely. And I think that it's such a message that is lost these days because I feel like so many people are focused on, you know, all the reasons why they can't get to where they, you know, all the things that are stopping them.
Yeah.
You know, particularly the ones that are unfair, and there's plenty of those. But also there's kind of the reality that all these amazing women and people throughout history have done, which is done things anyway, despite all the things that were stopping them.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. And that's what you should do. Like, just because someone tells you no, or someone tells you, oh, it's too hard, and like, life's hard. It happens, you know. So you may as well just persevere. You may as well give it a go and have a shot and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Let's go on to another question. So we'll just say hello to Grant, who's saying, I guess I should be asking questions rather than making statements. You're welcome to do both, Grant. You're welcome to ask questions. Martin, hello as well. You're welcome to ask us a question. And Marsha and Boris. Welcome back, Boris. Where you been, man? And there's some guy called Alex and then Ski. Sounds Eastern European. He seems to be on.
Yeah. Might be a relation.
Cool. Congratulations on your wedding, Mrs. Rueda. Is that still your name? It's got to be a new name now.
If she chooses a new name.
What's that?
If she chooses a new name.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is taking a whole new angle, this conversation. Hello, Monica. How was your meeting? Hello, Renee. Okay, so a question from Michelle. What's the most common misconception about Latin dance in Australia? Maybe from your perspective. AskNat.
The most common misconception. That it's really like sensual and sexy and like everyone's just cracking on to everyone, which maybe does happen and I just don't see it. But I think that's...
Yeah, man.
Hey?
Maybe you're missing out.
Maybe I am. But I think that's just like our culture. So Australian culture is very much you only dance like that with someone if you either want to be in a relationship with them or you are in a relationship with them. Whereas if you go to Latin America, it's just the way you dance. Like it absolutely makes no difference. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception, I think. At least that's what I hear when I tell people I do salsa. They're like, oh, that's so sexy and da da da, and you know, there must be all these hot guys that you're like rubbing up against. And like, yeah, that's not at all what it is.
So I think we should clarify that because everyone's going to take away the fact that there are no hot guys. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm sure there are plenty of hot guys.
Because when I cut this, when I get this cut up into short segments, I'm going to just put the bit in. I'll just put the question and I'll put your answer. There are no hot guys.
There are no hot guys in salsa. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. Go play soccer instead. Plenty of hot guys playing soccer.
You heard it here first. What do I think the most common misconception about Latin dance in Australia? There's so many, man. The fact that it's Latin. That's the first one. It's not particularly Latin. It's not particularly full of Latin people. That's the first thing that people think is like, oh, okay, but I'm not Latin. Can I be part of this culture? And of course, I'm sure everyone can see when they go dancing, majority of people are not, Latino. I think that's the first thing. I think what Nat said, which is more around just the I wouldn't say misconceptions, maybe preconceptions around the ability to dance and the sensuality of the dance and things like that. I think you just think like salsa sexy, which it is. And then maybe that leads to the next misconception, which is that it's easy. I think that's what I see a lot is people think that it's, it's easy. It's not a real dance. It's just a bit of fun on the dance floor, which is something understandable, because when you walk into a room and you just see a whole bunch of fun, it's just like, hey, all these people are just doing it.
Yeah.
It's not like, like when you go to the gym and you see all these buff people, you're like, shit, that must have taken a lot of work to get to that, because it's just in front of you. And then, but sometimes I think people go like, oh, look at that. So those would be a couple of misconceptions. We might do that.
That's how I started salsa though. Like my first ever salsa experience was I came to a jam and I'd never done a class before. And I was like, oh, that looks like fun. And so I just joined in and started dancing with a bunch of people. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, which I actually think is not a bad thing. I think this misconception is not a bad one, because it means that the barriers to entry for Latin dance are low. If you think, oh, I might do some salsa, I might try and come to this party or go to this class, it's usually thought of as not as big of a deal as if like I'm gonna start ballet. It's like I'm making this big life decision, because ballet is like serious, and I know that. And I know I'm not just going for one lesson, because that doesn't do nothing. So you already have this deep respect for the complexity and the history of ballet. Whereas I think the good thing about salsa, which, it's still a good thing, because there's nothing wrong with those kind of innocent opinions at the beginning, is, hey, it's just a bit of fun. And so it means that more people can start, And Grant is saying, is anything worth doing easy? Exactly. But I see it as my job, or an instructor's job, to show and guide people through those stages. So you want to show people that it can be easy enough to learn at a basic level, and it can be easy enough to experience as a lot of fun. But then you want people to also love the depth and appreciate the work that it's going to take to get to a level which is worth, experiencing, because that's definitely not going to be easy.
So then what do you think happens? Because the opposite seems to happen when people first start doing classes and you try and get them to come to a social and they're like, oh, I've only been to 4 classes, I don't want to go. So what do you think changes?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've thought about it a lot. Like I've had people, you know, more frequently than not, for example, people who are in the beginners class after 2 or 3 lessons will say, oh, you know, can I do the next level? Like, I think I'm ready. Like, I know it. I like it. And I'll, you know, and I might say, and I've done this a few times, like, you know what, cool, let's do that. But you have to come to the next social just so you can see what you're trying to, you know, getting yourself into and what level you're playing at. Oh, no, I couldn't. No, I'm not ready for that. I couldn't do that, you know. So that happens a lot. So I think, you know, that tells me, and, you know, and I was the same, that, you know, the class is a protected environment, you know, and it's a structured environment. And you don't, while you put yourself out there to some extent, it's kind of not voluntary because you're just doing what you're told, you know, and it's whereas when you have to be like, I'm going to walk into this party by choice and put myself in a situation where I'm not sure what's going to happen and all these variables that I don't know what they are and I can't control them. I think it's scarier. So I think that's what happens. You know I was learning to swim throughout my life, but in my teenage years, I was learning to swim, obviously, in a swimming pool, and I was getting confident, and like I was fine at one point. And then, you know, someone would say, oh, you know, let's go to the beach. And I'd be like, oh no, I'm not going to the beach. You're crazy. Yeah. Like I can't, because there's all these things that, like in my safe zone, I then became okay. Like I was exposed to this amount of fear and I became okay with it, but I wasn't ready for that next step.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a big step. And part of the reason why since the beginning of the year, I changed the structure a little bit to have, you know, the little social dancing party at the end of classes, was that to start exposing everyone, including people in mid-levels who don't social dance, to just more social. It's kind of an intermediary step between classes and a party, you know, and getting people to see like, actually, this is fine. It's exactly like this, but the lights are off, you know, and there's a DJ and not me. Let's have a look at the next question. Nat, what's the funniest and most embarrassing experience that you, either yours or your partner's, in the bedroom? No, on the dance floor. Sorry, on the dance floor.
The funniest or most embarrassing experience on the dance floor? Socially or in class, or it doesn't matter? Anywhere.
It's you have the stage, and I'm gonna have my tea while you answer that.
Embarrassing, I don't have, just because I don't get embarrassed. But
you
funny.
have no feeling.
I just think there's no reason to be embarrassed about anything. Like, things happen. What's the point? There's no point feeling bad or ashamed or embarrassed about it.
I'm going to do the interrupting. Let's come back to the question because I'm interested in this. How does an introvert never get embarrassed? That seems contradictory, but let's come back to it after you answer this.
We'll come back to it. The funniest experience would probably be, there's this guy that I always see out socially, and I don't know his name. I need to ask him his name when we're out of lockdown. But he always wears a vest and a hat, and I love dancing with him because he's so much fun. But I always have the funniest experiences with him because he always does the most random moves. Like, he'll grab you under the arm and like flick his hat in the air and pretend he's like throwing a ball and catching it behind you and all this sorts of stuff. Like, he's just really playful. And because he's playful, I always crack up laughing right in the middle of the dance with him, and he just joins in as well. So I'd say that's probably the funniest experience that I have.
Anything embarrassing?
He does.
Anything embarrassing?
No, like I said, I don't get embarrassed. So,
can I also just remind people that if you can change your setting, and I don't even remember where it is, maybe Kirsten will tell us, so that your Facebook name is visible. It's just the privacy setting. Otherwise, we can't see who is asking the question. Grant is saying he knows the fella. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I always tell all the girls to dance with him. Like, every time I dance with him and he's at a social, I'm like, you need to go dance with that guy.
And Facebook user is saying social dancing at the end of the class has been a great innovation, Felix. I think so too. Thank you for that, Facebook user. Keep using Facebook. Facebook user is also asking.
I'm a Cancer. I'm not a Gemini.
There you go.
Mm.
I don't know what that means. So we have a solution. You have to click on the link above and then give permission. On the link above, which link above? Hi, Michelle. David Legrand is his name, and he's in this group. He always wears a hat.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so if you can put your Facebook name on, we'll do that. Otherwise, feel free to ask the next question while we, and also I have a list of questions from pre-submitted ones, so we can get to those as well if we have time. And we're going to limit it. We're going to finish at 9 o'clock. We just limited to 1 hour. And so Nat, how does as an introvert, I am curious, and one who does get embarrassed, I'm curious, how does an introvert become someone who's never embarrassed? Those two things don't seem to.
With over 10 years of practice. So I used to have very bad social anxiety to the point where I wouldn't even go out with friends because what if there were people there I didn't know and they spoke to me and I said something stupid and I'd get embarrassed and they'd laugh at me. And I didn't like that because it felt like I was missing out on a lot of life because I just wasn't going out and living.
And what did you do to get used to it though?
I did probably the most extreme thing you could do, which was become a stand-up comedian. So I did stand-up comedy for about 3 years, just doing open mic type stuff. And because I was forcibly putting myself out there and talking and telling jokes and trying to get people to laugh, and dying horribly on stage one time where I tangled myself in the mic and like hit myself in the face with the microphone, and then the MC heckled me.
Those things are funny.
Hey?
Those things are funny.
They are hilarious now looking back, but I think it made me realize that it wasn't the end of the world and that everyone does silly things or things that they don't think about or things that are a bit dumb at the time. But that doesn't mean you should feel embarrassed by it. You know what I mean? Like it's not the end of the world. I think if, at least for me, when I was feeling embarrassed about something, it was because I felt like it was the end of the world and everyone would judge me and think I was a complete idiot and all this sort of stuff. So once I realized that's actually not the case, that people don't think that about you, and then the ones that do think that about you aren't worth the effort or the time knowing, so why would you care what they think of you?
Right now.
So yeah, now I don't get embarrassed.
I respect that story a lot. You know, they talk about, you know, facing your fears, and they talk about a hierarchy of progressive exposure to what you're uncomfortable with, but it sounds like you went straight to the top one for all of us.
Yeah, go hard or go home.
Stand-up comedy is scary, man.
Yeah, it is.
But that's really cool. And it's interesting, like I've had a lot of conversations over these couple of weeks around, you know, me asking people to post their videos in the group and people feeling uncomfortable about it, understandably, because obviously someone's going to watch your vulnerable time because everyone's learning and your shine's going to look not as good as you want it to look. And, you know, I try to remind, having been through this for the last 20 years, 40 years, I try to remind people that just some of those realities that you've learned, the ones you mentioned. So, you know, it's not the end of the world and things like that, which people don't necessarily kind of believe. But, you know, one of the things I said to someone the other day was like, you know, because she said there's so many people watching the video and like, you know, it's embarrassing. And I said, well, to be honest, I know, because like I post on Facebook and a lot, like I run all sorts of social media and everything, and I know, you know, I just talked to 18 people in a class, and I said, I'll see you at LJ Q&A in a minute, and 3/4 of them said, what LJ Q&A? Like, people don't know and don't look at as much stuff as you think they do, just like emails and Facebook posts and stories and stuff like that. And so I said to her, like, it's unlikely. It's unlikely that all these people are sitting and watching a video. Like, people are not going to spend a minute of their time playing a stranger's Salsa Shine. Like, they just won't, you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes these are hard realities to come by. But I think you're right, like experience. That's what I'm encouraging people to do, is post something really short. So don't do a minute, do 10 seconds, you know, and like do your best 10 seconds. And you just slowly get used to it, because you'll realize, of course, you don't feel that much. And I've had to go through this as I've had a more open presence on social media. Like, I'm not naturally that person.
Yeah.
Particularly in public. And every time I had to say to myself, and even, you know, everything in my emails as I make, you know, say the email I sent last night, the rewind email, you know, every time I write these emails, when I write a normal email, hey, come to this workshop, it's like, that's easy. But when I write an email that's like me as a person, it goes to 10,000 people on that email list, you know, I hesitate, and then I have to be like, no, this is it, and I'm just going to send it, and whatever happens, happens. You know, and just kind of remind myself to accept the fact that, you know, whatever reactions are going to come, it's okay. It doesn't matter, you know.
Yeah.
Kirsten says she loves you.
Oh, thank you.
And then we also have a request for you to do a gig pre-LJ Social.
I don't know if my old material holds up in this day and age. I need to refresh it.
So let's move on to the next question. This Facebook user is saying, even though I'm from South America, I feel like taking salsa classes changed, positively impacted my life in different ways. What about you? How has salsa classes changed yours? Good question.
It's changed in that it's introduced me to a whole new range of people that I otherwise would never have met. And they're amazing people as well. Like, they're so friendly and welcoming, and it truly is like a family, which I love. And I think it's made me probably more open to just talking to random strangers, which I could sort of do before. But nowadays I'm much better at it, just because, you know, you're going around in the circle in class talking to people you've only met 2 seconds earlier. You're going to socials, asking random strangers to dance with you, or just talking to random people on the dance floor and things like that. So I think that's the biggest positive impact it's had for me, is that it's made me more sociable, where I would naturally not maybe be very sociable at all. So it's good practice for that for me, which is what I love about it.
And hey, Adri, maybe you can write your answer here, just to give us your perspective. You know, how has coming to classes and stuff changed and positively impacted your life in all different ways? I'd be curious to know that too, particularly now that you're a married woman. Not sure what that means. Okay, so let's go to a salsa question that I have from pre-time. Let me find a good one for you. Do you want a technical one, or do you want a theoretical one, philosophical one?
You decide. Surprise me.
I'll surprise you. The question is, I find you can follow guys from classes, but often I get lost when I'm dancing with guys outside. What can I do?
So this might be slightly controversial, but is the reason you can, I would say, think about why is it that you can follow guys from class but not at socials? Is it because the guys in class are doing a pattern and you've memorized that pattern in class, and so therefore it's very easy to follow it because you kind of know what's coming next. Whereas the randoms at socials are doing different moves or different combinations that we haven't done in class, and so therefore you haven't quite picked it up yet, if you know what I mean. And so that's why it's difficult to follow, because I found, for me, that's what happened when I first started. So when I first started, I was memorizing like every single pattern, and the guys in the class, I could absolutely dance with them because I knew exactly what they were doing because I was doing the same thing. And then as soon as I started doing socials with people I didn't know, that's what happened. I was getting so confused. They were doing these hand bamboozles and I was wondering what the hell was going on, and I was getting tangled and off count and, elbowing them and all this sort of stuff. And it wasn't until Alex, actually, at our Wednesday 200 class, so this was back when I was in 200, he asked who remembers the pattern, and I was like, oh, I remember the pattern, being all cocky and arrogant. And he's like, so you're not leading it? Who cares if you remember the pattern? And that was like an epiphany in my head going, yeah, actually, because I should be following. So what am I doing memorizing the pattern? And from that moment, I stopped concentrating on what the pattern was. I never memorized them. And as soon as I did that, I could follow socially so much better. Because now in class, I was practicing actually following. So then whatever the guys were doing socially, all the bamboozles and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is just a hand bamboozle. So I just need to do my basic, and like he's not actually leading anything. Whereas previously I thought everything was a lead, and it was just so confusing. So yeah, that's what I would say, is think about why is it that you find it easier to follow guys in class and not guys socially. Because for me, that's what it was. It's because I was memorizing the patterns and the guys were doing the patterns. So I'm like, well, of course this is easy.
Good answer. I'm not going to add anything to that other than it does very much sound like something Alex would say.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody can tag Alex in the comments so he can come back and watch this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, which is on the screen. What's your favorite salsa song, Nat?
I don't listen to salsa songs, so I don't know. I don't have.
You don't know the name, or you don't know a song like at all?
I don't know a song. I don't know a single song. I hear them in class, and if I heard it again, I'd go, oh, I know that song. But if you ask me...
Is there a song like, at a social, when you hear the song, you like go, oh, yeah, this is, I like this?
Probably the one that's all crescendo. I don't know what it's called, but this whole song is literally just crescendo after crescendo after crescendo. And if you've ever been social, you would know the song I'm talking about. I don't know what it is.
Can somebody tag Chris, and then he's going to come back to this part of the video because there's a timestamp, and then he's going to tell us what the song is.
My brother would know it. I think he's the one who told me what it was last time, what it was called, but my memory's bad and I can't remember it. But it's a good song. It's a great song to dance.
Alex, we're waiting for you. Okay, so let's go to another question that I might pick as an interesting one. Okay, this might be a good one. Do you think you can become advanced faster by dancing with people more advanced than you?
I think it will take as long as it takes. Whether you can become just as advanced dancing with beginners as you can dancing with those more advanced than you. I think you should dance with everyone, from beginners to those more advanced, to those that are intermediate, to the instructors, to people who have no idea what they're doing. That's how you become more advanced, by dancing with a wide variety of people. I don't think it's a case of I'm going to dance with the really advanced dancers and that's going to help my progress, because it's not. Because then you're going to go dance with a beginner and be like, oh, why aren't they doing what I want them to do? It's like, well, because you've never given yourself that experience in order to learn what to do in that situation. So, yeah, I think everyone, and I did this as well. Like, I remember when I started, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll get to 400 in, 6 months. And it was like, no, that's not going to happen. But because everyone wants to move up a level and become advanced. But, like, I mean, you're always a beginner in whatever you're doing. Even when you get to 400, you're still a beginner. Like, it makes no difference. You're still learning something. So to become a more competent dancer, which is what I think the question is asking, you should dance with everyone. Beginners, intermediates, advanced, instructors, newbies, whoever. That's what's going to help.
Nat, I think you found your next career.
Really? What's that?
This is, it's so cool, this answer. Clever, it's articulate. I'm really enjoying it. It happens to match exactly what I would say.
Oh, really?
So I'm really enjoying hearing it coming from you rather than from me, which is really cool.
There you go.
Yeah, that's great.
You must me well if I'm saying it then.
That's right. Maybe this segment will repeat. Okay,
Maybe?
Let's go. And hey, Nat, do you dance in the shower or is it just me?
I dance everywhere. I even dance on the train platform waiting for the train. So I'll have music in. I'm just bopping. Yeah. So anyway, I dance everywhere.
And what music are you listening to?
I have very eclectic taste in music. So I have everything from Eminem to Backstreet Boys to Elvis to Cold Chisel to Bon Jovi, everything. I listen to everything.
Cool. Eminem, that's my number one.
Oh, I love him. I saw him live last time he came to Sydney, and it's the best show. He's so good live.
I've never seen him live. That's cool.
You have to. He's so good.
I think I thought I was too old, although he's older than me.
It's true.
I discovered Eminem right at the beginning. I'm going to tell you the story. So I was this was in 99. I was driving to uni and I had bought a CD player into my car. You know how they used to have cassette players and you had to rip that out and put the player in?
I remember doing that to my car.
Yeah, because I had a really old car and I went to this dodgy place, probably somewhere, down your way. And and I had to leave the car there and I went to just wait while they were putting it in. And I walked to a Brash's store and I just at random went to the R&B section and just picked out this CD that was just there because I was in a hurry. I can't remember why. I just picked it. I didn't know what it was. And that was the Marshall Mathers LP.
Oh,
and
best album, I think.
And then on, our relationship has never stopped. It's been a long time of following Eminem very closely. Rate the following in order of effectiveness. The best way to advance your social dancing. Social dance, classes, privates, or watching videos? In order of
effectiveness. So for me, personally,
clever question, Michelle. Very clever question.
It is. I like it.
Clever questions. Let's see some more clever questions. Joe Watson, you're next.
I would say it depends on how you learn. So for me, I learn by doing. That's my learning style. So for me, classes and social are the two things that really helped my dancing. So classes, I got the technical side of things. So this is how you do this. This is how you execute this move. And then social was the practical. So I was able to go out and put it into practice. Privates I've done here and there for if I want to work on something very specific. But I don't watch any videos, to be honest. I do every now and then, if I see a really cool social dance, but it's more just for the social dance, not because I'm trying to learn anything out of it. But there are people who learn from watching videos. So if that's your learning style, by all means, that's how you'd advance your dancing. So it really depends on the person and what your brain absorbs the best. So for me, it's classes and social, because class is theory and social is practical. But it depends on how you learn. You just have to find the mix for you.
Okay, good answer. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
So I'm releasing the next episode of the podcast tomorrow. So hopefully, if you are subscribed, you should see it, and hopefully everyone has subscribed. But I think you'll like it, Nat. It's he got a lot of interesting sort of opinions about social dancing, and I said he, but I haven't told you who it is. Yeah, it was super interesting for someone at that level to talk very openly about what just what he thinks about different learning styles and what it takes to become advanced. He's got a really good answer.
Yeah,
he's got a very, very cool answer to that question.
Yeah.
But
the same as what like Fernando Sosa said. Like he's, arguably the biggest thing in salsa at the moment, but he's like, I still go to classes because I still need to learn things. And I think that's the attitude you should always have, is always think of yourself as a beginner. So I'm always learning something. So if you think you're like, oh yeah, I'm in 400 now and I'm killing it and it's too easy, well then find something to challenge yourself. So, if you always lead, try following. If you always follow, try leading. Go back to beginners and try doing a proper basic technique or something. Yeah, I
want to talk about that actually. I want to talk about your leading experience, but that has to be if there was any secret to success, and it's probably not just salsa either, it's that be a beginner in your head. Like keep thinking, keep having that curiosity and that desire for improvement and the desire to learn, desire to change, because that can keep you going. Like that's your motivation. I think so many people are looking for, a reason, some extrinsic reason, and those reasons come and go, and sometimes you can't think of what they are. And then, you might have like a chat with me after class and I get you back on track. But then 2 weeks later, like we haven't chatted and that's gone, because there's so much reliance on external stimulus to get you motivated, And so if you can find, and again, like I've experienced this, we all have in normal life, you watch like some clip that really pumps you up and like, from now on, I'm going to start running. And it's like, yeah, but then that feeling is gone tomorrow and then you don't want to run, and so the reliance on this feeling, this motivation feeling, I think is a trap. And if you can find the passion or the interest or the curiosity as a learning experience, it's like, oh, I really want to change this, or I'm curious about that, or I really want to do this. Like you said, then it really gives you that space and the right and the freedom to keep going and not worry about the level and not judge yourself too much, because it's like you live in it, Good question, Michelle. Good answer, Nat. AskNat continues. We have 13 minutes. Nat, does your partner dance? If you don't have a partner, would dancing be a tick bonus when getting to know someone? I like that.
So I don't have a partner, and
partner.
And it would not matter if they danced or didn't dance, because I dance and I like it, and if they don't want to do it, if they have some other interest that they're passionate about, well, then that's cool. So
hey, no, I'm gonna take it up a notch. Would you give up dancing if your partner wasn't okay with you dancing?
Anyone who makes you give something up in order to be with them is not worth being with. So I would ditch the boyfriend.
Ditch the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Done. That's a warning to all prospective applicants.
Yeah. I remember, 3 years ago, I shaved my head for the world's greatest shave. And I had so many women telling me, oh, I would love to do it, but my boyfriend won't let me. I'm like, if my boyfriend told me you're not allowed to shave your head, I would dump him and then go shave my head. Like, that's just ridiculous, I think. You shouldn't, tell people how to live their life. If they're not harming anyone and they're enjoying themselves, then just let them be.
I'm glad you don't come to my house, Nat.
Why is that?
Well, so next time my wife tells me what to dress, what should I say?
Well, it depends. Do you like the choices she gives for you? Is that something that you're after?
We're going to move on. I'm just stirring trouble. So tell me about how has leading affected your dancing? Because you've been leading for maybe 6 months or a year.
Yeah, on and off for about a year. And then at the start of this year, I said I would spend 3 months doing nothing but leading in all classes because I wanted to properly learn how to lead.
And Kat is asking what now both a leader and a follower, what do you think makes a good follower and an enjoyable dance, and how has leading changed your following?
Yeah, so leading has immensely improved my following. So, you know, I said the first thing that helped my following was Alex telling me, you don't need to remember the pattern, what's the point? But the second thing was starting to lead, because as soon as I started to lead, I could see what certain things felt like. So it was like, oh, that's what not holding frame feels like. That's what not supporting your core on a turn feels like. Like, that's what all these different little things feel like. And I started to understand why the guys did certain things, because there's this one thing that us girls always talk about is guys that are overly violent. Like, they will forcibly push you into a move, and we're like, why do you do this? And it wasn't until I started leading that I realized it's because as a follower, if you feel unsafe in the dance, you lock everything. So you lock your shoulders, you lock your body, and when you're that tight because you're trying not to get injured, it's physically impossible to do anything. You can't even lead a right turn, nothing. And so that's when I started to realize, oh, so that's why the guys are doing that. It's because this is what the girls are doing or the follows are doing, and that's what it feels like and that sort of thing. So because I now understand what the leads are doing when they do certain things, and because I follow, I understand why the followers do certain things. So when a follower locks their shoulders or their body, I understand, oh, it's because they feel unsafe, so I need to tone it down. So that's what's really helped my following, because now I get it. Like, I get both sides. And it means I can better hold my frame. I can better do this to be easier to lead. But then I can also understand how I can make the lead not do certain things. So not make them be rough and, you know, that sort of thing. What was the other part of the question? I forgot.
How has leading changed your following?
That's how it's changed.
Yeah, it's certainly valuable, right? Like, you know, there's you know, it's hard to come up with statistics, but not many of all the ladies that I've ever encouraged to learn to lead, including instructors. Like, I'm the only person I know who makes female instructors learn to lead, and often, you know, they don't want to. So you definitely experience the benefits, right, for your dancing from learning the other.
I think everyone should do it. I think if all you do is lead, spend a term following. And if all you do is follow, then spend a term leading. I think everyone should do the opposite for a term, because it really, really genuinely helps your dancing, because you start to see things and you start to feel things and you're like, oh, so that's what that feels like. Oh, that's why they do this. Like, yeah. And it answers all the questions you have, because I've heard so many guys go, oh, girls don't know how to turn fast enough. And I just think to myself, you need to go follow so you can see what that particular lead feels like, and then you'll know exactly why the girls aren't turning fast enough.
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing. And same for the girls. Like, when they go, oh, the guys always do this, it's like, well, if you lead, you'll actually see why they're doing that, because they're like overcompensating for a lack of frame or whatever it might be.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a big secret. Like, I started dancing following early in my dancing, I think, you know, maybe year and a half or so, 2 years.
Yeah.
Just makes such a big difference. Like, you could invest, I think, you know, 6 months of following is going to give you 2 years of your leading practice. Like, you're still going to have to learn all the leads, but as the quality of your lead and the feel, once you experience it, it's like, it's not just a theory that you're trying to do something. You actually know what it feels like, and you're trying to not feel like that.
Yeah.
It's a real motivation, especially for,
I always feel like it should be a week 4 exercise, or like a 2 exercise. Just make everyone swap roles.
It should be. Maybe I'll be meaner, because I always feel bad for the people that don't want to do it. But now that the world has changed, who cares, right?
That's it. You got to live outside your comfort zone.
They're going to be grateful they get to dance with a man for a minute, better than being at home.
That's true.
Take what you can get.
Mm.
I like that, Nat. I like it. Okay, we have 6 minutes. So we will finish up. Maybe should we try and do 2 more questions? If anyone wants to post a fresh question, we have Marsha. We're waiting for your question. And Matthew, hello. Christina, hello. Let's quickly say hello to everyone who's joined who I've missed. Chris, hello. Joe, Monty. I am channeling proud dad faces and listening to Nat's answer, definitely. Hey, Peter. Hey, Dat. Remember Dat?
I do.
He's there. How are you, buddy?
Awesome wedding dance I've seen. That was so good.
Oh, it was one of my favorite wedding dances I've done.
Yeah.
How cool was that?
It was.
Particularly the K-pop part, which I didn't do, because I could not do that. Only Dad could do that.
Yeah. That
was very cool. Hello, Aaron. How you doing? So if you were, on the chat now, what are you wondering at the moment, dance or not dance related? What are you thinking about? What would you be asking?
I don't know. Probably why don't more guys follow? Because there's only really one guy in class that will always try to follow. And since I've started leading, there's been a few guys that are like, oh, can you just lead me in this so I can see what it feels like? But there should be more guys doing that in class.
Guys,
actually on that, why do guys find it so bizarre being led? Because every time I bring this up with guys, they're like, oh, it's just weird. Even just in close position, like these are guys when they lead will get really close to you. But as soon as they're following, they hover and they won't touch you. I'm like, you got to hold on to me. And they're like, oh, but it's weird. I'm like, how is it weird? It's the same as when you're close in leading. They're like, no, it's different. How is it different? Why is it different? I don't get it.
I get it.
So enlighten me, because I don't.
I think it's a male thing, man. I think it's going to be hard to understand. It's just I think that role reversal, takes you out of a position of comfort. I wouldn't even say control, because it's not about control. It's just a change. Yeah. Because I would say that it's very similar with ladies, because you go like it's the same. You're still doing the same step, but you might be like a lady who starts leading. You're like, no, wait, but I don't know what to do. You just start your basic. Like, just that switch freaks people out. And I think, guys have the feeling of identity in this position, in this thing that they've taken all this time to get comfortable with, from being freaked out in your first day to now like, hey, I'm okay. Yeah. And then when you switch that up, it's just hard to manage, and you feel, I wouldn't say, I know you're thinking you feel feminine. It's not that. You just feel, I don't know, that lack of certainty maybe. And this is why I think it's such a good thing to do, because that feeling of like, what the hell is going to happen now? That is what girls feel. Like, it's not gender related. When girls dance with somebody who they don't feel confident about, they're like, you start to wonder, like, what's going to happen? You feel vulnerable. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for, is that feeling of vulnerability is not that they're just not used to it. Yeah. So when you're leading, it's like, I'll take as many basics as I need. I'll manage the situation. And all of a sudden you're vulnerable and you're subject to somebody else. And that's not a feeling that we're used to.
Yeah.
It takes practice, both whether it's in dance or, you know, just in general, being able to relax and go with the flow.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think it is. It's a good question.
Yeah. Because I see following, there is a level of vulnerability, but I see it as more you're living in the moment, whereas leading is like planning for the future. So maybe if you reset your frame of mind and be like, hey, I'm just living in the moment, maybe it'll get easier.
Yeah, but that takes practice to change that mindset. You can't just click over. You had to have done the training to become that person. Similarly, you know that when you dance with beginner ladies, ladies early on in their dancing, they don't have that mindset either. They're in the mindset of I'm in the moment and I'm following and I'm giving myself to the process. Like we don't think like that. We're always in defensive mode. And you know that, like, the reason ladies feel stiff at the beginning, it's nothing to do with anything other than that tension and mistrust, I guess, about what's going to happen.
You don't know what's happening.
You don't know what's happening, and so you kind of freak out. So Kat loves the song. Not sure what song. We don't have any song playing.
The crescendo song?
She just loves songs. She loves songs. Okay.
I love songs.
We'll finish up unless I see a question come up. Matthew, hello. And what's your prediction? Well, I'm on two final questions. What's your prediction for when we will resume classes?
Judging by the government thinking we're probably going to be out of this by June, I'd say maybe about July. Okay. Assuming it all goes to plan and everyone stays home and doesn't hang out in big groups at the beach.
Okay. Good. I've been asking people, and like we have a chat with some of the industry kind of the heads of schools.
Yeah.
And there's wide variation on predictions. Some are, end of May, and some are like end of January, February.
Yeah. I think maybe July, August, because I feel like June they're going to start lifting everything that's happening and allowing people out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of I think for us, definitely, I think life will start coming back to normal, assuming there's no spike. But I think for us, the thing is going to be the crowd control and the social distancing.
Yeah.
So if
that's going to make it hard.
Yeah, that's going to make the difference for us. So if they say, look, life goes back to normal, but we're limiting 10 people in a room, that's going to be tricky. And then if they say life goes back to normal, but maintain social distancing,
yeah,
it's going to be hard to, touch a lot of people.
It's showing every class.
Shines every class with space between everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to need a big room. We're moving to a new studio. So we're moving out of our studio.
Yeah.
And we're looking for a new space. So hopefully we find a big space which will allow 1.5 meters between everybody.
There's always the park. We can just go dance in the park.
Or hopefully this doesn't happen again and we won't have these rules. But yeah, I've thought about that. I've thought about if they allow public activities with space, that maybe outdoors is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
True.
And so then the second part of that is, what are you most looking forward to at the end of this, whether dance or not dance related?
Just being able to leave the house. Because my work started isolation before everyone else. So this is almost 2 months now that I've been working from home and just sitting in the house. So yeah, just being able to go out and go have a coffee with someone or just sit in the sunshine or something.
And if you could choose anyone from today to have a coffee with, who would that be?
Well, I'll have a coffee with my proud dad, Felix.
All right. You and me, bro. I think I think this has been really cool.
Yeah.
Alex is happy for a bigger studio. Hopefully, man, I am looking. So if you guys come across any space and any landlords that are desperate, which hopefully there will be a lot of them, we'll hopefully find a nice space. I've enjoyed this. I think my suspicions about you being good at this have come true.
Oh, well, there you go. You know me too well.
And the Ask Nat segment lives.
Lives for another day.
Lives for another day. All right, guys. Well, it is 9 o'clock. So, hello, Michelle, and hello, Ray. You're just a little bit late, but you can always, of course, watch this again on replay, and we might cut out some of it and post some clips around. So, thank you so much, AskNat.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've enjoyed having you, and we'll be back with LJ Q&A soon. And look out for the podcast. Please subscribe so you know it's there. It's for you guys. It's coming out tomorrow with the next guest, and you have to listen to see who that is. Cool.
Can't wait.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Let's say goodbye, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
See you.